Professor Archibald MacDonald, our principal, Professor Dale Weber, this afternoon representing the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of Water, Works and Housing. I think we should have the Honorable Favour Williams, who isn't here yet, but we still will want to recognize her. Mr. Mark Tippett, President of North Star Development Jamaica Limited. Our representative from the Ministry of Education, Mr. Marlon Williams. Members of our MONA senior management team. Representatives from JMMB, from the National Water Commission, Jamaica Wells team, and other members of the private sector team in partner with this event. We want to welcome you this afternoon and say a very good evening to you. Hello, good evening. Good evening. You know, just before I came, they said maybe we're going to water being turned into wine. I was wondering if you got the wine already and just couldn't answer. Let me welcome you here this afternoon at this very historical event, the commissioning of our water well. And this is something I know which is so dear to the heart of our principal. I'm not even going to say very much about it because this is something from day one he felt we just had to do. And this was in an attempt to mitigate the severe water shortages that those of us who are members of the UWI family know about that shortage every single drought season. We all know about it and we all get ready with our pails and whatever we need to have to do, whatever we have to do with water. And so this has been a project very close to the heart of the principal, and in his own style of promoting private-public partnerships, he entered into a build, operate and transfer agreement with the North Star Development Jamaica Limited in September 2014. The 2 years which followed the signing of the agreement saw NSDJ taking on this project in earnest, all at its own expense. And I will not go too much into it because I'm sure the principal will have more to say about it. But as at November 2016, based on the deliverables and their work schedule, the project was completed. And I think that needs a round of applause for the projects of this nature. We had so much to do to get this on the road. We had so many regulatory authorities on our tails making sure we meet all the standards and requirements so that we could, in truth and in fact, have the water that we need. We had to meet the requirements of the Ministry of Health, the National Water Commission, NEPA, just about everyone that would be important in this event. We ensured that this project went on its way and was seen to completion. With 750,000 gallon tanks under construction by Nord Stream, which will come on stream totally by February 2017, the supply capacity would have surpassed the campus's normal daily consumption. And of course, this victory for the Mona campus is also, yes, clap, 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 clap. This victory for the Mona campus is also a victory for the National Water Commission, who will now be able to spread its own water resources to a wider cross-section of the surrounding communities. It is indeed a remarkable event, and the official commissioning is what we're having today. We're very happy that all the key players, those who have enabled us to engage in this project, sustain it, and maintain it to its conclusion, we all have these key persons here today. And we're so thrilled that Dr. Horace Chang, who is one of our own alma mater, let me say that hurriedly and upfront. I told him this, well, I've told him several times, but I keep reminding him. He was my guild president when I was on the Mona campus. So Dr. Chang is someone who has a long history with the University of the West Indies. So welcome again. We hope it's going to be short and spicy, and we hope that you will be able to join us. At the end of it, I'll direct you as to how we're going to turn on this thing, and we're hoping that it's going to be water, not wine, although some of us might do with a little wine. And we're going to have a little celebration at the end of it all. So we'd like you to stay with us for the entire activity this afternoon as we celebrate this commissioning of our well project. At this time, I'm going to invite Pro Vice Chancellor Dale Weber to the podium, and as I invite him, may I add apologies. Our Vice Chancellor is unable to attend this evening, and he has asked Professor Weber to bring greetings on his behalf. So let's welcome Professor Weber.
Dr. Camille Bell Hutchinson, our registrar and our MC for the day. Dr. the Honorable Horace Chang, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. See, I'm learning it, Horace. It's rolling off naturally now. Pro-Vice Chancellor and Principal of the Mona Campus, Professor Archibald MacDonald. Mr. Mark Tippett from North Star. Colleagues from Jamaica Wells, colleagues from all our investors and partners, UWI staff, and I saw a couple of students. Welcome to you all, and good afternoon. Welcome to what is the most beautiful of the 4 campuses of the university. Of course, one being virtual, it means that we have 3 to work with. This campus is, of course, home to many of us and is the only home that many of us have ever known. But it's a home of resources. With over 700 acres, there are endless possibilities. And we are here today to see yet another possibility of a resource come forward. When I left the campus, this project was just starting. And a colleague said, you know, this is going to be a game changer. And that it is. We look forward to the many, many changes that will become possible as a result of this new initiative. The University of the West Indies is very proud of the Mona campus for having taken its resources into its own hands, for being able to become self-sufficient. 97% of the world's fresh water is underground, and you have unlocked that potential by putting this well in place. Water is essential. There were questions about the aquifer. There were questions about the depth. There were questions about the location. But on behalf of the University of the West Indies, you have fulfilled your mandate and more with your partners and partnerships. Principal MacDonald, the Vice Chancellor has asked me to say, no pun intended, well done.
Thank you, PVC Weber. At this time, we're going to ask Professor MacDonald, our principal, to bring greetings. Those of you who know our principal knows that he has been spearheading several private-public partnerships on the campus. Sometimes we're a little bit out of breath. You would have seen the 138 Housing Jamaica Limited, those new dorms that we have. He has done that in earnest. He's continued to do that, the redevelopment and reconstruction of Irving Hall. There is a project which wasn't quite a PPP, but you know, we are naming the section the MacDonald Complex. He doesn't even know that yet. That's the Faculty of Medical Sciences Teaching and Learning Complex, which was spearheaded under the deanship of Professor MacDonald. So this is a man who has a vision, but you know, there are many visionaries who just have visions and you never see it come to pass. Well, here we are this afternoon at this commissioning. This has come to pass. So help me to welcome our principal and visionary, Professor Archibald MacDonald. I actually was going to say Professor the Honorable, but I think it actually deserves the Honorable Professor.
Thank you so much, Registrar, for your kind words. Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of Water, Works and Housing. Let me recognize Minister Favour Williams. Even though she's absent, this is her constituency, and it is my hope that she turns up eventually. So let me recognize her even in her absence. Mr. Mark Tippett, President of North Star Development Jamaica, and pardon me, but I'm also going to recognize his colleague, Dr. Skip Hogue. Is that how you pronounce your name, Sir Hogue? Or Hogue? We could like to call him Skip for short, a very important person here this evening, and I'll explain why. Have I recognized my dear friend and PVC Weber, who's representing our Vice Chancellor, other members of the management team. I also must recognize our Deputy Principal, and I must recognize the Chairman of the National Water Commission, who is himself, applaud him, Mr. Aubin Hill, who is himself no stranger to the University of the West Indies. In fact, I regard him as a colleague. We have members of the Jamaica Wells team, Mr. Richard Simpson, Mr. Windward Lawrence, Mr. Craig Batchelor, and Jamaica Wells played a very, very important role in this project. I also wish to recognize some members, some investors who are here. I saw Mr. Carl Townsend. Mr. Townsend, where are you? Right, welcome, sir. They funded, assisted with funding of the project. Other representatives of the private sector, members of the press, members of staff of the Mona campus, other invited guests and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to you all. Today is a great day. Today is a great day indeed. As you heard from the registrar, this is a project which is indeed very, very dear to my heart. But there's another reason why it is so very special. And that reason is that we have with us the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, who is a colleague of mine, as you know, a long-standing friend and colleague. And in fact, he was guild president when I was a student. And I think our registrar was also a student here. So we are so very happy to share this exciting day with an old, well, I don't want to say an old friend. Okay. But it's also special because a few days ago, we had our long service award ceremony. And we share that very special ceremony with Minister Bartlett. And Minister Bartlett, Minister Chang, you'll remember, you will recall, was on campus with us in those days. And he said that, believe it or not, despite his long record of public service, he was visiting the Mona campus and got an opportunity to speak to colleagues and the community at Mona for the first time since 1972. And I will tell you, his speech was absolutely excellent. So we are very happy to have you, and we look forward to hear from you. But as the registrar indicated, this is a very special project. We'll be commissioning the well after what I regard as too long a time, a considerable time. And you know the reason for this project. The registrar indicated the perennial, we have a perennial shortage of water in Kingston and St. Andrew and on the Mona campus. We have had some bad press, as I'm sure you're all aware, about our inability to provide water to the community. And I went to Rexetel for the Hall shortly after I became principal, and I saw two young ladies, very slender young ladies, filling buckets and lifting those buckets. I said, where are you taking that? They say, look, they're taking up to the 6th floor, 5th or 6th floor. And Mr. Devon Smith, our campus project officer, was with me. You recall, Devon? And I got mad. I said, sometimes I get a little short. And I said, this is totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And I said to him, if they were my daughter, I would take them home. This is not acceptable. So we decided that we had to do something about the water on the campus, and we explored a number of options. I went to Finance and General Purposes Committee, and I raised it. I was told, Principal, there is no water, when I raised the possibility of drilling a well. They said there was no water. I said, how do you know that? They said that we did it before. All the studies indicate that there is no water. So we started talking about rainwater harvesting and so on. But I persisted. And then Dr. Ronald Robinson, a very key member of my public-private partnership team. Where is Ronnie? Right, let us recognize Ronnie. Ronnie, as I will indicate later, is key to the team in that he scouts out for investors. And he met Mark Tippett, Mr. Tippett, he met, and they had a conversation. And as we usually do, after a preliminary discussion with Mark, he invited him up to meet me, and we started having discussions. Mark came with a huge team, 4 or 5 of them, and we talked and talked. And after many conversations, he decided to have a go at what appeared at the time to be the simplest of all the projects, because you know we have a number of projects working on the campus. We still have some yet to start. But Mark brought this gentleman right here, Skip. I'm going to ask you to stand. I want you to applaud Skip. I want to applaud him. Because I recall on the first day he came, and I said to him, why are you so confident that there is water here? And he smiled, he laughed, he said, Professor, there is water. And I said, oh, you know. And then he gave me a lesson in hydrology and geology. And he said that he had studied the maps, and he told me about aquifers and so on. That was really educational for me. Although I have a scientific background, I realized how very little I knew. But Skip educated me, and I turned to Mark and said, you're a brave man. Are you a gambler? He said, no. And I said, to construct the test well, it's $15 million. And you know that you have to pay for that, because we have no money. And he said, Professor, look, we have a lot of confidence in Skip. I said, why? He said, because he has done this all over the world. He has done this. So we have a lot of confidence in him. And as the saying goes, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The fact is that Skip even predicted that the water would be found somewhere in the region of 650 to 700 feet below the surface, and after the long process which it takes to get these private-public partnership arrangements in place, negotiating back and forth, and Herman McDaniel, who you all know, Herman, the second, probably as important as Dr. Robinson, was part of those discussions. But after many discussions, and we signed an agreement, the project commenced. And I will tell you, those were nervous days, because when they reached 650 Skip, we were counting down every day. Every day Ronnie gave me a report. I said, where are they now? 700 feet. They haven't found water yet? No. Where are they now? 750, no water. 800, no water. I became very nervous. I didn't sleep that night, but within a day or two, they struck water, I believe, at about 850 feet. And I came down, took a look at the water coming out, and it was clear water. I was so happy. What is important to us on the Mona campus, because in addition to providing a reliable source for the campus stands to save a significant amount. In fact, I've estimated that what we'll be saving is in the region of $150 million annually. And there is also a potential to sell water, Mr. Hill, even to the Water Commission. We might be able to sell water. As you heard, the financing was done by North Star. and we want to thank the Jamaica Body Market brokers for providing a significant part of that financing. The campus will pay North Star a management fee based on the amount of water consumed, and this goes on for a number of years, 15, somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 years, after which that payment will cease. Initially, Jamaica Wells also played a critical role. They drilled the well, and they will be managing the project initially. Eventually, it will be managed out of California, is it, Mark? Remotely, when we get the IT in place. And as I said before, there's an opportunity for the campus to earn revenues from selling water. And I think you all know that we plan to construct a second well to supplement the water obtained from this well. But let me reflect a little. At my inauguration, some of you who saw the news report will recall that I blamed everybody for the underdevelopment and lack of economic growth in Jamaica. The UWI not excluded. At that time, I made a commitment to work with the private sector and to change our research emphasis to projects that would have a positive impact on Jamaica's development. I made the point that it is a matter of record that the University of the West Indies has really impacted positively on the human capital of the Caribbean, and people like Dr. Chang is a living example of that. And we have produced so many prime ministers, so many ministers. We know that story very well. But I said that the University of the West Indies should do more to promote and to achieve positive economic growth for Jamaica. Today I'm proud to say that we are well on the way to achieving this mission, and Minister, let me assure you, I'm speaking personally and on behalf of the Mona campus and the University of the West Indies, that we stand solidly behind your administration as we try to achieve that elusive growth. I am really tired of being poor, and I believe that we need to grow the Jamaican economy, and I assure you that we stand solidly behind you. In fact, let me say that this campus is well on its way to becoming an entrepreneurial university. Today, the university, the Mona campus of the university, has never been closer to the private sector. When I made a statement, when I criticized the private sector, Mr. Hill, they said that I was scaring away the private sector. But the private sector, there was one smart man, the former Governor General, who said, they don't know you, but no, they have taken note. And so said, so done, because we have never been closer to the private sector. We have a number of MOUs with a great number of local, regional, and international companies. And we have MOUs with umbrella private sector organizations like the Jamaica Manufacturing Organization and the PSOJ and the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce. But what you are witnessing here is a new funding model for tertiary education. Partnership, this is really a partnership between the private sector and academia. A university is a business, but some aspects of that business is managed better by business people, by the private sector. That is the reality. And maybe I had always known that, but since becoming principal, I have come to really understand that better. The university should concentrate on its core business of teaching and learning and research. And through partnerships with the private sector, outsource aspects of its operations. The university, great professors that we all are, really lacks the experience and the know-how to manage businesses. And how do I know that? What I found when I became principal is that all the business entities, Mr. Hill, you heard the story, were losing money or not being properly managed. And after working with a number of private sector entities, as you heard from the registrar, I am now firmly convinced that the university should concentrate on its core business of teaching and learning and leave the matter of running the business side of our operations to the private sector. As you heard, this will also earn revenues and make the institution less dependent on government funding. Let me be clear about this so that there's no misunderstanding. Education is a social good, Minister, and I believe government should always provide some funding. However, the Jamaican government and the governments of the region cannot afford the funding necessary to sustain a world-class tertiary educational institution. Tertiary institutions can and should be required to earn revenues to assist with funding their operations. In the past, we have talked and sometimes criticized the private sector for not assisting more with tertiary education. Our private sector, in fact, has been very good in assisting with scholarships, etc. And that is very important. But whereas philanthropy is important and will continue to play a role, what we are doing today is different. It is different. We are not asking the private sector for a handout. That is not what we are doing. What we are asking the private sector to do is to partner with us, to help us to manage those parts of our operations and earn a profit for their shareholders. People are in business for that reason. People are in business to make a return on their investment and to make a profit for their shareholders. So that is what we are doing. The philanthropy will always be there, but we are now working with the private sector to help us to become a more efficient institution and to earn some revenue while at the same time making profit. I'm emphasizing that because that is important, making a profit for their shareholders. The Mona campus has lost. We have the data. We have lost, despite what the naysayers say. We have the data, and we have been losing money from the halls of residence. It makes no sense why we are losing money, because the halls of residence represent a hotel. That's essentially what it is. It has to be managed no differently from our hotel is managed. And we, over a long period of time, persisted and kept the halls of residence, even though we were losing money. Today, as you heard from the registrar, we have divested that business to 138 Student Living through a revenue sharing arrangement. A revenue sharing arrangement is built into the partnership agreement, and we are making a lot more money than we made when the halls were managed by the university. But in addition to that, go and look at the facilities. I pause to catch my breath because I visited Taylor Hall, Chancellor Hall, Irving Hall, and really those halls are really not one would expect to find in any university. It's out of date. The facilities were dilapidated. Maybe it was wonderful, Minister, when you and I were students, but today it is unacceptable for the millennium generation, and I feel certain. And we had to forego the 1 year increase in tuition for that reason. Or in hall fees, was it, Registrar? We had to forego an increase because the students said no, enough is enough. The facilities are unsatisfactory. and we had, the FNGPC took the decision to waive the increase for that year. If you look at 138 facilities, we have modern facilities, and our hope is that we will eventually attract a large number of international students. And I will tell you, North American students, there's absolutely no way, Professor Kawa, that North American students will go into those dilapidated rooms. The first day you put them there, you will have a problem on your hands. So 138, I understand, by the way, the situation is no different, Professor Weber, in St. Augustine and Caven. In fact, the last FNGPC, which Professor Sankat attended before he departed, I don't know if you recall, he said that the situation at St. Augustine is the same. They're losing money, and he wanted to follow the example of the Bona campus. As I said before, we still have a few projects to go. We are still looking for investors. There is the redevelopment of College Common, this very property that we are on here. You will find that this property has nothing has changed since the British left it to us. You can walk the grounds, and if you go inside the houses, it's even more, it tells a story. And therefore, we will be redeveloping College Common into a modern community, a real gated community with facilities where people can gather and where children can play, etc., etc. That is what we are going to do, and a community which will be secure. And the concept we will use is a gated community within a gated community. And I am determined to get that project going. We still have the cogen plant to complete. We are very close to signing an agreement on that. And we have plans to construct a small hotel, 150 rooms, to replace the Mona Vistas Lodge. And then, of course, we have Mr. Allen and Mr. Mitchell, my colleagues from the University Hospital. Welcome. So glad to see you, because we have the redevelopment of the University Hospital. And I want to applaud my colleagues from the University Hospital. Mr. Moss Solomon is not here. Another private sector man from Grace Kennedy. He is now chairman of the hospital board, and they are doing an excellent job, moving a huge boulder uphill. That's what we do. We move large boulders against gravity and against those who are trying to push it down. And they are doing that at the hospital. And Mr. Allen, I hope you don't mind me announcing that if everything goes well, we will begin construction of the first phase of the redevelopment of the University Hospital certainly in the first half, and I was going to say in the first quarter, because that is what we are aiming for, to begin construction in the first quarter of next year. So, investors present, these are wonderful opportunities, and this is an opportunity for you to earn significant revenues and to make a significant profit for your shareholders. Let me not be too long, but let me say a few words about the private-public partnerships that we have successfully implemented. And we successfully implemented. The 138 project is the first successful private-public partnership in Jamaica since the highway project. But I want to make the point that because there are people who believe that these projects are done by Archie MacDonald sitting in a room and writing a project. That is not how it works. There are tremendous amount of due diligence and a tremendous of work which goes into this. So as I said before, it usually starts with we speak to so many investors every single day. We are speaking to investors. Dr. Robinson is our recruiter. and he brings them, and they have himself and Herman have the preliminary discussion, and then if they feel that this is a potential investor, then that is when I meet those companies, the directors of those companies. Sometimes it's by using the technology. Sometimes it's face-to-face. Mark and his colleagues came all the way from the United States, so we had a face-to-face meeting, and the discussion goes on. They're told that, firstly, we have no money to spend. So they have to provide the financing. That is how it goes. And then there's a discussion with the financial people about the return on investment, etc., etc. But I will tell you that we have Mr. McDonald, who's a chartered accountant. We have a campus legal officer, but we don't stop there. Every project is, every project is interrogated by our external partners, the largest law firm in the Caribbean, Myers Fletcher, and one of the main accounting firm, KPMG. Everything which we do is vetted by them. Everything that we do is vetted by them. And then finally, we have the campus legal officer doing the final vetting, and nothing gets signed unless he tells me to sign. I will tell you, I don't see him. Carl, are you here? He's not here. But I sign nothing unless Carl tells me to sign. And that is very important, to protect the institution, but also to protect me. So if it's even a letter, I hardly sign even a letter without Mr. Lawrence telling me, go ahead, this is safe, you can go ahead and sign. So the point I want to make is that there's a lot of due diligence which goes into this. Professor Carr was integral to the first PPP with 138. So he will tell you how the intensity of the work. They were up some nights until 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And I'm making this point because people, despite the obvious success of these projects, there are still naysayers. There are still people who feel that we are putting the university at risk. We are not doing that. There is all these projects, the risk to the university is minimal. Minimal risk to the university. Minimal risk, financial and otherwise. And we take great care to ensure that this is so. So the UWI community is proud to be making this exceptional step towards self-sufficiency and growth. And we are very pleased that we have been able to establish such a critical and beneficial relationship with North Star Development Jamaica Limited. This project, along with our recently established LED project, because very shortly we'll be replacing all the lights on the campus with LED lights, which will decrease our use of energy, places us one more step to becoming a greener and self-sufficient institution. In closing, let me thank everyone, and I hope I have not left out any of the key players because so many people have contributed to the success of this project. But I would like to thank everyone who supported the various components of the project and who worked tirelessly in achieving this mission for the University of the West Indies, and more importantly, for generations to come. That is what it's about. Whatever I do, let me be specific. It is not for today. So the medical complex you will see, of which you spoke, Registrar, when the then principal said it was an expensive project, I convinced him by indicating to him that this is not a project for today. This is a project for 50 years. This water project is a project for 50 years. The 138 project is a project which will go into when Arch McDonald is long gone, and has gone 6 feet under. This project will be even if I live to be 100, this project will still be here. So that's what it's about. It's really about ensuring the future of generations to come. And it is my hope that what the grounds of the Mona campus provide for our students, I hope they will return, it will be returned by them, using their knowledge and expertise to make Jamaica and the Caribbean region a better place. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Well, what can I tell you? You felt the energy, you felt the passion, didn't you? Let's hear it for our principal again and all those ideas. Now, just to digest all that you have just heard and to think about it a little more, we thought we would have our student come and give you a chance to relax. So we're going to have a little entertainment, short entertainment at this time, from a young man who is an outstanding performer, Mr. Melbourne Douglas. Now, at UWI, if you say Melbourne Douglas, I don't think it would ring a bell at all, but you just say D. Burns. And you will know how, well, you won't, because of our age maybe, but the youngsters all know about D. Burns. Now, I am assuming D. Burns is here, Dr. Edwards. Yes, D. Burns, you're hiding down the back. So let's hear it for our student, Melbourne Douglas, otherwise known as D. Burns, to perform for us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm D. Burns. In case you were looking for me. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping at your nose. So I'm gonna smoke it. Yuletide carols being sung by a choir. And folks dressed like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe helps to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way, and he's got lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. And every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kid from 1 to 92. Though it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you. No, I'm a university student and I know the pains of being on hall without water when drought comes. I've gone through 2 of them, and believe me, this well is a blessing. So, Christmas come early. Christmas there. And so, I'm offering this simple phrase to kid from 1 to 92. And I can sing the last part with me now. Yes. Though it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas. One more time. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Can I turn up the track a little? Turn the track up a little, please. Yeah. Now, time to hold a small vibe, just a small vibe before the next speech. We know this song, right? Say right, cool. But we're gonna remix it. We're gonna remix it now. Because we have water. So you're gonna say no. So water. Wanna catch it? Water. If you don't catch it, sing it now. 1, 2, 3, so. Body the pass now. At Christmas time, somebody say. So Christmas a come, me want me llama. A Christmas a come, me want me llama. A Christmas a come, me want me llama. And me say Christmas a come, me want me llama. And not a hat pa me head, and not a shirt pa me back, and not a shoes pa me foot. Remix time again. We have water now, don't? So Christmas a come, we have we. A Christmas a come. And me say Christmas a come. And me say Christmas a come. And when next summer come, all when the drought come, all when the sun a burn, and Christmas a come, we have we were. So we wish you a Merry Christmas, and I wish you a Merry Christmas. Said I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dee Burns. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Dee Burns. So I know many of you are wondering what has happened to Mark Tippett. He's still here, but I wanted to give you a little break. Now, as Dee Burns was performing, I was going to say the young man, but Ronald, you know that is not so young. A young man came up to me. Ronald Robinson, who the principal has been talking about as his lead PPP investor kind of interviewer at the start, came to me and said, the principal still forgot something. Can you please just let them know that we are close to the deal for our campus center? Forgot that, Principal McDonald. So he said, we're developing a campus student center, and that has been on the table for a long time to seat approximately 10,000 persons. And Dr. Robinson tells me there'll be food court, and being very biased, he says, you'll have an exam center. Hallelujah! We need an exam center, a graduation center, and an indoor sporting arena. What can I tell you, Prof. McDonald? Again, so this is something he says in the making for next year, Ronald? Hopefully. Aubin Hill is here with one hat, but I want to remind you, he's also chair of our audit committee. So, so that's just another project in the making, and it has been a long time. And one of the things Prof. McDonald tries to do is to bring to conclusion these things that have been going on and on and on and on. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure now to introduce to you Mr. Mark Tippett, President of North Star Development Jamaica Limited. He's founder and president. He oversees the company's strategy and sales operations. He has extensive corporate finance and business development experience through previous leadership positions in technology firms such as Verizon, Sprint, and Hughes Electronics. And since 2002, Mark has led North Star Development in developing premier projects in the US, in the Dominican Republic, in St. Kitts, in Panama, and in Jamaica. The company currently has projects under development that total over $100 million in construction costs. Mark has his MS through a combined MBA and engineering program from the University of Maryland, College Park, and his BS from George Mason University in Virginia. So it's my pleasure to welcome him now to the podium to bring remarks to you on behalf of North Star Development Jamaica Limited.
As a developer, I'm much more comfortable with a hard hat and boots than I am standing behind this microphone. But I'll tell you that Dee Burn, you calmed me down, and I can now say that that's not my favorite Nat King Cole song. That's my favorite Dee Burn song. I'll also beg your patience. I came here with a terrible head cold today, and I was telling my wife I'm a little bit nervous. I feel like my brain is only working at half speed. She said, honey, your brain always works at that speed. They'll never know the difference. So, Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Professor Archibald McDonald, Miss Registrar, Chairman Aubin Hill, distinguished guests, faculty, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to finally be standing here in front of you. And I think the professor might have added the word finally. This is a very, it's a historic project. It was a project that had a very humble beginning. We were here, as the professor said, on multiple occasions talking to the university about a whole range of projects. And this was not one of them. And it literally was in the car back to the airport with Doc Robinson and with Tyrone Graham. And they asked the question, would North Star consider building a water infrastructure project at the university? And so, you know, the answer was just obviously, yes, we would. And then the very next thing that I did as soon as I got to the airport is I called my friend, Dr. Skip Hogue, who I had met some years earlier in St. Kitts, and I said, Skip, I don't know what I've gotten myself into. Skip was living in St. Kitts, working on a geothermal project and also on a water infrastructure project. I was there with an energy project that we were working on. So I've known him for some time, and I knew this was his area of expertise. As the professor said, you know, he comes to this project with almost 40 years of experience after serving his country in Vietnam. But you know, almost immediately after returning from Vietnam, he started study in this area, got his PhD, I think has completed projects in something like 38 countries worldwide. Hundreds of millions of gallons of successful water development. So, you know, I asked the simple question, what do you think the prospects are that we will be successful finding water on the Mona campus? Based on his experience in large part here in Jamaica, he said, I think our chances are good. So that's kind of how this project got started. You know, the professor, from the very first time that we met the professor, he explained this vision of public-private partnerships and why he thought that structure was critical. The university has been expanding its student roles not only within the region, but also from outside the region. And so he just really impressed on us how critical it was going to be for the university to start owning its own infrastructure to build this reliability and this robustness and self-reliance. So that's kind of how we came into the project. There's a couple aspects of the project that I wanted to talk a little bit about. This project took us a lot longer to complete than we thought it was, and it certainly took a lot longer than we committed to the professor and to the university. We had a number of very significant technical challenges, and I thought you might be interested just to hear a little bit of some of the things that we had to deal with. The first thing that we do with a project like this is, and when I say we, I mean Skip, is to do a very high-level kind of exploration based on the geology of the site. As I now know, Jamaica is very complex from a geological perspective. There are lots and lots of different types of subsurface materials that you know are complex and have to be understood very well. So we did that. We identified at that point some of the targets on campus. We then went into a next phase of exploration, which was our geotechnical. This is essentially, the best way to describe it is it is literally an MRI down into the ground. So we took these readings and we looked down in the ground, and we were just so excited to hear the results, and then we were a little let down because we could only go down to 250 feet, maybe close to 300 feet, but we could not see in the results from that geotechnical survey what we really wanted to see to give us that confidence. the professor talks about how Skip, very confidently spoke to him on a number of occasions. Sometimes when we would leave those meetings, we weren't feeling within ourselves the same level of confidence. It kind of reminds me of the joke about the breakfast and the difference between commitment and sacrifice. And the chicken is very committed to the breakfast, but the pig really sacrifices. We were the pig in that equation. So we, at this point we were really in. So after our geotechnical work, we went and did a test well. And all of this, the thing that gave us a tremendous amount of increased confidence were our friends at Jamaica Wells and Services, Richard Simpson and his whole team. So, it was kind of their experience and Skip's kind of scientific knowledge that we were pretty confident that we were in the right place, but we weren't really 100% sure yet. Then we dug that test well. The first well, we went down to 400 feet. I think right around 400 feet, and I was there on that day, water started coming out of the ground. And we got really excited because we had been waiting for a long time to see that water. And so, but kind of in the midst of our exuberance, I look at this trickle of water coming out, and I said, Skip, there's 17,000 students out there, and I think they're a little more thirsty than that. It was a good sign, but it was not nearly the volume that we needed. And so it really meant that we just needed to keep drilling. So then I think the next level that we went to was 600 feet, and that was our contract. Our contract with JWS at that point was to go down to 600 feet. And we hit 600 feet, and we weren't there yet. And I think there was literally a phone call from your guys at the well site, and we said, got to keep going. So we went down then to 650 feet, and that's when we got the call from Skip and said, we have a gusher. A lot of water coming out. It was the volume that we really had expected and, quite frankly, needed. So at that point, then, that was kind of the end of the test well. Then we went for the production well, which much larger diameter. And as we were drilling the production well, now we weren't seeing the volume and the flow that we needed to see. And what was happening physically is we had gotten into a layer of sand and clay. And the problem with soft materials like sand and clay, they just won't allow the well to maintain its integrity. It'll clog up the screens and the pumps. And so the static water level actually is at 440 feet, but we had to go beyond 800 feet to finally get into a material, karst limestone, which is both rigid but also has enough is porous enough that allows for the flow that we need from the aquifer. So in all of these kind of stops and starts, we were frustrated and anxious. But I know that nobody was more frustrated and anxious than the professor. And, we saw the press and we saw the pressure that he was under. And I was reminded of something from my childhood at that moment, because whenever we would reach one of those kind of stops and not, be where we needed to be, then there would be this call from the principal's office. Come up to the principal's office. And I had forgotten as a child, no good can come of that. You do not get called into the principal's office to be offered congratulations. Good job on your math marks. So we had our share of meetings in his office, and we took our lumps, which were deserved. But the one thing that I really want to say about this project and working with the professor and the team is that just what a fantastic team to work for. And the professor is he's a leader. He's a very inspirational person. So we were absolutely committed to deliver this project for him, and that was something that is a bit unusual. You don't always have that experience in a development environment. The other challenge that we had, which had nothing to do with technology, is project finance. Project finance. It doesn't matter what the project is, where it is in the world, project finance is always a challenge. It's never a given. Projects like this are financed with a combination of equity, which is the risk capital, and debt, which is essentially the construction loan. For those of us on our team who did not spend time in Jamaica and who have not developed in the region, we had some detractors on our side as well, and we were told you'll never get this project financed. And I said, we not only will get it financed, but I said my prediction is that the majority of the capital is going to come from Jamaica. And that's exactly what happened. This is a significance, again, that goes beyond this project, because this is a very good bellwether for public-private partnerships and public-private partnerships in Jamaica. We took the project to the street. We met with a number of financial institutions. JMMB were just, Carl, I think, just sprinted to the front of the line and said, JMMB is gonna provide the debt financing for this project. So I think his only problem is that investors were so excited about it that he wished we were doing like 10 of them, because just not enough people got to participate. So it was very rewarding to see that we could kind of take this. Public-private partnerships are not a new model, but they're not successfully carried out very often in very many places. We see that this public-private partnership model, where we're able to keep the bureaucracy to a minimum, where everyone is kind of focused on the same goal, and then this extra horsepower of capital funding the project from within the country, so that Jamaicans are receiving the benefits of this project, not only the students, but also the investment community. So we're very excited. We're very honored. We want to thank the professor and the university for having confidence in us, and having confidence in us, quite frankly, at points in time where, at those dark hours of the night, and we hope to be able to duplicate this type of thing in other places, not only for the university, but other places within Jamaica. I just want to make sure that I do my duty to thank some of the ones that we haven't mentioned. Obviously, JWS has been on the team from day one. They are part of the development team. Salway Construction. Tank Weld is the provider of the large storage tanks. Specifically, Sonia Goff and the firm of Hart, Murhead, Fata. And then last and certainly not least, the entire UWI team. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so as we move along, it comes to the point where we need to hear from our minister. And so it's my pleasure now to introduce to you the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, with responsibility for water, works, and housing. Horace Anthony Chang is a medical doctor by profession, serving in both the public and private sectors, where he made significant contributions in the development of a modern public health system for Jamaicans. His political career began in 1976 as an active member of the Jamaica Labour Party. In 1980, at the age of 27 years, He was elected Member of Parliament for Western Hanover and served that constituency until 1989. He has been the Member of Parliament for Northwest St. James since 2002. A former Minister of Housing, Environment, Water and Local Government from 2007 to 2011, under his guidance, the National Housing Development Corporation of Jamaica, which included the Operation Pride program, was reorganized and renamed the Housing Agency of Jamaica, HAJ. In the water and wastewater sectors, he conceptualized the largest major water supply improvement system, the $211 million Jamaica Water Supply Improvement Project while he was minister. Dr. Chang was Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Health between 1980 and 1986. He has also served as opposition spokesman on housing and inner city development, as well as water and housing. Over the years, he has held several leadership positions in the Jamaica Labour Party, serving as General Secretary, Deputy Leader for Area Council 4, Chairman for Area Council 4, and Deputy General Secretary. He was also a youth leader in East Rural St. Andrew and Vice President for Young Jamaica. Dr. Chang is married to Paulette for well over 38 years. They have 2 children, Melissa and Martin. He enjoys reading, playing dominoes, and traveling around the island. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you our minister, Dr. Horace Chang.
I came here back in the early 70s as a teenager. And that time, on a full academic scholarship, but got deviated very early into politics. So my political career really started here on campus. The first thing was when they burnt the red gowns, Professor MacDonald. But I also learned very quickly that those who focus, ask the university to be traditional and focus on just teaching on the usual traditional thing, but the British university system made some big errors, because one of my first, as guild president, the thing I recall as guild president I had to do was to pay off debts by those people on the left side. We did successfully, of course, and restore some sanity to the university, to the guild accounts. Dr. Bell Hutchison, or Camille Bell Hutchison, campus registrar, Professor Archie MacDonald, my colleague and principal, Vice Chancellor of the university. Of course, the Vice Principal, that's what here now, Professor Weber, and Professor Kawa, my Chairman of the Water Commission, Senator Auburn Hill, other, of course, the tribute from the development company, the members of the leadership of the university, and the various lecturers and well-wishers here. I take pleasure in being here this evening to participate in the launching of this water project by the University of the West Indies. And I'd have to make a few comments on it, but I'm pleased with it for more than one reason. Not just that the university has taken a positive move to resolve its own water problem, which is important, but in many ways as symbolic of the leadership of the university in recent time, which have tried to break the old mold of a university, which what Professor MacDonald alluded to, that we should focus on teaching and philosophy literally and forget the business side of the university. And I'll make some more comment on that, but that was maybe the British tradition that we inherited. Started over in Gibraltar at the old store, the old campus, as it was, and was devoted to what was purely the academic side, and of course medicine was the main science advocated here. But modern universities are almost the, may I say, the incubator of not only knowledge but of entrepreneurship. The age today, we're in the age of knowledge and innovation, and much of that evolves out of universities. And indeed, if we think of North America, which is still the largest economy, whoever we have as president or otherwise, and maybe still the source of great innovation, but the Silicon Valley comes out of Stanford University and the campus in the California areas. And if you go across the states, there are several others not as well known, but out of the University of Maryland and surrounding research institutes, out of the Harvard, MIT, Nexus, and of course some other new ones like Kansas and Charlotte. This is where you find innovation is driving development, and the University of the West have to be. And you'll have the full support of at least one politician for whatever time there in going in this direction. because the kind of ivory tower concept of university has long gone. You know, that was in the days of the Greek, when the philosophers ran the country, and you have what they might call original democracy. Everybody sat in the square and listened to the philosopher and do what he had to do. Those days are long gone. Universities have to play a much different role in the modern development, and I do look forward to seeing the University of the West Indies being a very critical player in the program of growth for this country and really moving us beyond the kind of cycle of poverty which has characterized us in our post-independence era. But that's really have been the challenge we are faced with. And you get periods of little growth, then it comes back down. Then it goes up and come back down, and you come back to where you were, sometimes going below where you were before. And I do think the university can play a significant role in that. I'm here, of course, as the minister with some response for water, and I'll make a few comments on that before I address the university. Some of the comments that Professor McDonald made, of course, and the challenge he faced in doing this, are a little bit surprising. And maybe we'll seek to address them from a different angle I get there. But knowledge of the water resource in the carpet area is well established. The Ligonier Aquifer is one of our most productive aquifers. And anywhere along the Long Mountain Ridge, you can find water, right? We have several wells there. Below the foot of Beverly Hills, Hampstead, around to Renat Lodge. It's on the fringe of the Ligonier Aquifer, which is well established as a major source of water. And therefore, getting to water is not a challenge up here, and it's just a matter of identifying the appropriate area where you can get a well to touch the aquifers, and you will meet some of them, of course, in the carpet area have been contaminated. And in fact, I will go back to in my first dispensation as a minister. I faced that problem very early because the drought of 2008, 2009, I think, was in recent times the most severe drought. And I recall the university hospital, University of Technology, all of them running out of water, not just the 6th floor. The entire water was being locked off regularly. And I think at that time, we together, there was a construction of a huge tank up by near Papine for the university, just to try and see if it could store some. But it was almost impossible to get, during that 6-month period, satisfactory water supply to the university. We had several very contentious community meetings in Mona and elsewhere. And it was a difficult year, and that's when we, in fact, initiated what has become known as the Jamaica Water Sector Improvement Project, which is a massive project to get more water into the carpet area. But certainly it's a pleasure to see the university now moving to do that. Now, the challenge you face really was the finding the water. And I have to make the appeal on behalf of the Water Resources Authority that you follow their guidelines, because the Water Resources Authority is a very technically competent little unit of government which is not well known or recognized, nor their knowledge even respected as they ought to be. But they have all the knowledge that is required about our water supply and can provide the technical advice and skill you require if you talk to them. They are little known. Fortunately, in recent times, we engage one of the university personnel, Dr. Paris Ayew, who is now chairman and certainly has been making conveying a bit more knowledge about what the WRA does. But for the area in, for example, I said, is on the Ligonier Aquifer. The challenge you'll face and what you might have had questions coming to you by many of the professionals that you should not do a well. It's not that you shouldn't do it, because it is that to do a well you need the authority of the WRA. And we do so because they have a good knowledge of the capacity of the Ligonier Aquifer and the wells in the carpet area. And therefore, you're not going to issue a license freely. And I want to commend them for giving the university a license, because the actual capacity of the well of the Ligonier Aquifer is somewhere about 54 million cubic meters per year, about 12 billion gallons. And the actual allocation currently is 56 million gallons. 56 million gallons. So we've actually exceeded the allocation for the well. And I said, if they had asked me, I'd of course allow them to give the university a go along, but the university needs to, but you're not going to get them issuing license for more wells in the carpet area, because they are very much at the limit. That's the reason why I have to bring in water from Yalas and the Tullow Spring in St. Catherine, and we hope to bring in more, that we can ensure the continued development in the area. In addition to the capacity being about 54 million gallons cubic meter, I think we have about 7 or 8 wells in the carpet area that are contaminated because of the lack of CO in all of the carpet area. So those wells are no longer functional, and therefore the risk you face if you overpump is not so much a failure of the well, but you can get saline intrusion and also intrusion from the contaminated areas, some of which are pretty near to the Mona campus here, because we do have a well in the Buttercup Park, which when I checked back in the 2008, we could not activate because it already become contaminated. There are several in King's House, and there's one up before the hospital, all of which have become contaminated. We are busy expanding the CO collector system. Those of the residents of Mona who might be here are quite annoyed because of the work being going on in there, in somewhere in Daisy and elsewhere. But it's something we have to do. The technology that is used to expand the CO system is still somewhat primitive, but it's the only way to do it. And digging up the road in the middle of the road, I know it's never nice to anybody. And of course, sometimes the restoration is not as adequate as it should be. But we are in fact on a very extensive system of expanding the CO collector system to ensure that we can reduce the ongoing contamination and hopefully restore some of the wells in the area. It takes a long time, but we hope that will happen over the next years, and we do have a program to do that, plus repairing some of the very old old sewer lines that are downtown Kingston. So the entire system, as I said, is dependent on having satisfactory disposal of the wastewater. And that's the real challenge we face here. So in fact, there is water there, and I will give the university all support it needs to get its supply. I'm told by the UWI they have given them a pumping capacity of 720 gallons per day, and that you use about 720,000 gallons per day, yeah. And you use about 500,000 gallons per day. So you're in good order, but I expect you will continue to expand. When I came here, I think you were about 5,000 students, Professor Archie. You know what, 20,000, and you're moving 18,000, and you're moving more, and we're going to demand you move even faster. So I expect you'll need the water, but those are some of the issues that face water in Kingston, because sometimes you get the comments from those who are involved and what is being done, but there is good knowledge and good understanding of what is happening in the aquifer from the Water Resources Authority, and any discussion with them, I think, will help you and can assist you in guiding how you manage the supply and ensure that it remains satisfactory and reliable for the University of the West Indies. And as I said, you save a lot of money, and that is good business for the university. My Water Commission chairman is here, but we don't issue licenses for private sector, but you're in the university, you have the exception, and that's fine, no problem, right? And we are looking at how we can improve the water supply, and certainly in the face of the challenge we have, until we correct some of the problems the Water Commission have, we have to accommodate some of not only university, but we too are looking at expanding the role of public-private partnerships in developing the water system, because we have some major problem in the water system which causes the problem, the failure to be drought resilient, and when the dry season comes on, everybody's down on water. We still lose about 65% of the water we produce. We produce for the carpet area between what we get out of the wells and coming into Kingston, some near 55 million gallons per day. When we lose 65%, you can see how much we're doing. And we are spending some funds to correct that. In fact, we are currently, the current contract just for the carpet area is about 46 million US, which is what, near $6 billion Jamaican. That will hopefully, and the technology, I've depended on the engineers, Prof, and I'm not in that field, but they tell me we will be able to knock off about 40% of the non-revenue water, and that will bring significant increase and reliability to the system, even without any additional source out there. It is part of the problem we face with the old leaky system. Jamaica was once a fairly prosperous colony, and we got water supply even before some of the developed societies. All the small towns on the coast, Black River, Montego Bay, and there are shipping ports of banana, initially logwood and all kind of thing, and the colonists put in water supply, but those supplies are still the ones we're having now. You know, old cast iron pipes, which have become porous by any measure, and we have to take steps to change them. So that's the challenge that you have out there, which we are working on, and hopefully we'll bring the entire country a more reliable supply. But in the meantime, it's great to see the university having one that they can depend on and having their own autonomous system. Universities have to, in fact, if they are to prosper in the new world, have a certain level of autonomy. The policy of government, of course, in modern times is, and maybe by necessity as well, while we support research and training at the tertiary level, we'll find that we have to devote more and more resources at the preschools, primary school, and secondary school. And therefore, universities have to become more and more autonomous. And anyone who argues with that, to tell you, would be arguing against the trend. And I'm very pleased to see my friend, Professor McDonald, who's moving this direction and has certainly made the university much more independent. And so I think not only independent, but I agree with him, just to take a look at the new campus facilities compared to what we had in Taylor Hall is fantastic and it's fabulous. As I said to one recently, I've been here a couple of times in government and said, look, the university is now looking like a modern first world university, and that's what we want to have. And I want to commend Professor McDonald and the team. The comments I'd make for the university is something. You use the word investments in addressing us quite extensively, and I'm very pleased to hear that. And it is, you have to begin investment to get the university independent, to make it viable. You'll still get your subventions from the various governments, which I know in many cases come late. Yeah, right. Sometimes don't come at all. Right? But that will continue for some time, I'm sure, and for the very near future. The government also is seeking to expand student loan facility, but we have to make some changes. But you use the word investment, I said, across the board, and the other word I introduced in discussion is just simply innovation and entrepreneurship. Because you have to invest to get the university to the level you want, but I think you have to begin to also to realize, as indicated in my opening remarks, universities has to be a center of innovation. And I think the university has the talent pool, the intellectual depth to begin to have its own patents and begin to make money from its own business. That's what big universities are doing. The huge universities in North America that have billions of dollars in trust funds. They get the money from either their own patents or from the students that they have trained and initiated in fields that then make significant contribution to the university, because the orientation is towards innovation. And I think once you have a principal and an administration begin to think out of the box, you're dealing with investment, you're dealing with not with the traditional kind of ivory tower aspect, then you begin to move in the new areas. I think the university has the intellectual capacity to really begin to drive innovation in the Caribbean and this part of the world. We have to break out of the box and not just keep writing what somebody in North America writes up. And I do think we have that now. I think Professor McDonald is somebody who will have to lead that charge. That is what, among my reasons why I alluded to some of the challenges you face, which some of the challenges you face unfairly when you're dealing with water supply, because I think you could have gotten a lot of the information, Mr. Chief, to look at very easily from WRA. But one of the challenges you face in innovation and in the country facing growth and development is just the respect and awareness of the technical capacity and knowledge of the country. We, University of the West, have done extremely well in the fields we're in. I think we have proven our intellectual capacity. MEDC is an outstanding faculty. I think it's one of the, and in its standard, is one of the best medical schools in the world, in this side of the world today, and it has attracted the students required. And they do outstanding research. Our social scientists, maybe not as prominent today as when in the heyday of the 70s, when ideology and so forth was more prominent, but I do think we still have some outstanding students and scholars in the field of sociology and natural sciences. But I do think, Professor, you have to begin to look in the technical side some more. Your geological department is good, you need to expand it. Our engineering department you have started need to be expanded significantly. And if you need support for funding, you can talk to this Minister of Government who will look to you. And I say that because much of this activity, water is engineering. And this country, while we are speaking quite confidently of growth, and I do so not only as a Minister of Government, a Jamaican who believe we are definitely too poor for how much human resource we have, and we can find a formula in the economy to grow the economy and give the people of this country a better quality of life. It's a commitment that we can do it. And that's not a partisan policy, it's something as a country we can do, and we have to find the solution. And I think we're beginning to go in that direction. But I'm also convinced that unless we do take some of the basic things, and I speak to this because only yesterday I had some discussion about training and promoting an area of investment that is critical to the growth and development. We really have to look, I said, expand our capacity in training, technical side. And I don't mean telling high school to go teach woodwork and metalwork. And I would say that quite quality, and our primary schools to go back to open up woodwork shops. And I have a strong view about that, And I say it before I continue to say what I was about to say at the university. I made that point to some of my government colleagues that I'm not very fond of vocational work at high school level. I distinctly, it does gauze me wrong. For two reasons. One, I think at a pure theoretical level, any carpenter or plumber who can read and write well will be a better carpenter and a better plumber. If the Jamaicans have a great knack of learning by rote, you put a man beside a car and he'll learn how to pull it apart and put it back together fast. But if he understands the physics and mechanics of it, he's much a better mechanic. And secondly, although I did medicine, I was a student of history in my early years. And one of the things we tend to forget is that vocational work was introduced into Jamaica to suppress Jamaicans. And I repeat that. Vocational work was introduced in schools to suppress the intellectual capacity of Jamaicans. It was brought in because the initial teachers of literacy and numeracy were church deacons, and they taught people to read and write and the basic mathematics. There was a fear by colonials, and as I'm sure there are historians here, and even if I'm a little bit off, I know I'm correct. The colonial government took over education to stop the male teachers from teaching Jamaican men how to read and write in that context and to think, and ask them to teach them what was then called weed right, agricultural skills, and that kind of thing, to work for the farms from which they were freed. Because classical education would make them to be greater thinkers and potential rebels in the colony. That's how vocational teaching was introduced in Jamaica. And if I have a mental block about teaching all these things at primary and high school, if the person learn to teach, read and write properly and do basic mathematics, they can go to carpentry, plumbing, mechanic, and they'll be better craftsmen for it. This thing of imposing all kind of vocational work in high school, and you go to some secondary schools, third formers have 18 subjects with 7 business courses and 7 vocational courses. Ridiculous. And I have to say it with all the respect to the educators. We need to get out of that syndrome. Because as we go forward now, one of the things I said we need, by the time you get to university, I think, in fact, let me leave it. I think that's how our original university get caught up in purely heavy into social science and natural science and medicine, and you still sent off engineering and agriculture to Trinidad because it was kind of secondary thing. They were not the nice things to do. We need much more of that. And I would say without any contradiction that unless we expand our training in the technical field, and I mean engineering now, not vocational work. That's why I made my comments before. Real engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electronic engineering, computers, and so forth, we will not have sustainable growth. I'm not arguing with my environmental scientists now, because no country in the world has shown the capacity to grow in a sustainable manner who have not trained engineers. Singapore, which we like to talk about all the time, with a population similar to Jamaica at the time, trained an average of 10,000 engineers per year. Costa Rica, although Intel left them, had some 200,000 university students, of which nearly 20,000 were in the engineering field. I learned to my great horror only this week that currently Jamaica trained less than 100 engineers per year. We cannot have sustainable growth, and so, Professor, well, I give you all the support to your business venture, but your next task is to begin to expand our faculty in the technical field that we can train the cadre of engineers. And I say this really here, we have to start almost immediately between University Technology and Mona, because it's not only a water system we need to maintain. We have to develop, we have to innovate, we have to build things. And when you build them, we have to maintain them. The Water Commission has challenges. the chairman is here. Part of it, we have a small core of competent engineers in the Water Commission. When you go beyond that, you have a challenge. And if we grow the economy by 5% a year and grow the economy, you're going to need thousands of engineers to maintain the water system, to maintain our roads. If you have infrastructure, as they say, drives development in today's world, along with that thing. But you have to maintain, you have to build them. We're building roads, we bring a whole bunch of Chinese come here to build it. You're building a factory, you find that the Chinese are one company in Jamaica. Or you import some from France, Morocco. The Water Commission project we did, we had engineers from all over the globe. Israel. So we're constantly importing large numbers of engineers. And then when they leave, half our infrastructure begins to fall apart. They will say, why is this so? You have potholes, the water system failed here, and things just not running right, because we need technically competent people to operate them. And Prof. Archie, if I say it now as a friend, you have to help us in this direction. You have to begin to orient that side of the university to develop. If you take our port, we have just divested. I went to visit it recently, and the port has the potential to contribute major to our development. Trade is the basis of our growth in the world today. 80% of trade runs by sea. But I went there and looked at what they have down there. You're going to need truck drivers who are certified to operate in a modern port. Truck drivers. The various that they used to lift the cranes they have down there. Jamaicans will appreciate it. One crane will cost you 15 million US. To sit in that crane with that, I went up and looked at it. Beside it, the drama of going up in that thing. But whoever is operating it is pretty much like an airline pilot. And they operate like that. They are allowed, I think, a maximum of 150 hours a month. They get good pay, and Jamaicans have adapted very quickly. But you need people who understand the basic mechanics and have the basic engineering orientation to manage these things and maintain them. We're still bringing in too many people. So if we do achieve growth, even where we are now, it will not be sustainable unless we begin to get to our technical side, which will be able to deal with your water problem quickly and deal with all the other problems engineering very quickly. It's a challenge we face. You're going to end up again growing for maybe 5% for 3-4 years, and then you go back down and you begin to go down and back to square one, so to speak. That challenge, I think, is one that the university has to work with us to overcome, because we cannot do that. And just another anecdote which is important. We're discussing, for example, because there'll be talks of business process management, which is one of the big areas we can evolve, because it really means just integrating with the North American economy, which is big. Nothing wrong with that, and providing services. It's not a sweatshop as some people think. The biggest companies, despite of what, we are a hot topic. And we have some good companies in Jamaica. But the biggest companies are not coming here. And you know why they're not coming? They tell you right up front, they can't scale up because we don't have the engineers. They don't beat around the bush. They need that kind of skill. So you're not going to say info system here anywhere near in the future. And unless you get those companies like the garment sector before, like agricultural sectors, they will go to a level and decline to zero in a very short time. So let me commend the university on their move to think out of the box in terms of managing their affairs and approach it in a business-like manner. And I will say, in closing, I know it has not gone at the expense of the academic quality. I say so not to my older students, but I know that Professor McDonald is one who retains a very passionate and deep commitment to quality intellectual standards. And I don't think it has in any way impaired the university's commitment to providing the best guidance for the intellect of our people. And I think there's a lot of creativity here. And I want to commend the university on that, but you have to, again, broaden it now into the other areas, which we have alluded to, because unless we do that, we'll not be able to do what we have always felt, even from students, because much of the political ferment of the 70s was about how we can make Jamaica and the Caribbean a better place with our own identity, our own culture, and our own approach, and therefore determining our own destiny. That was our mission, and although we may have had different political views, and we have taken different paths, I think that is the mission of the generation of which I shared the privilege of going to university with. And today we have to take the steps that can concretize that and really move in the right direction. So again, let me have said, I commend the university for the efforts here. I know this water system will work well. I offer the Water Resources Authority and the skills to work with your developer to ensure you can maintain and manage it in the way it should be maintained to ensure sustainability. The money you save from that, of course, now I say, you can spend it in expanding your technical services and building your faculty in education. And we commit to find the money to match you and make sure we can build it out there. But the more we save and the more money we make, the better now we can commit to ourselves to expanding the whole academic menu for the university that have seen this. Again, let me commend the Professor McDonald, the team of all of you at the University of West Indies who keep growing this fantastic institution, keep making it a place that really want to attend to. I've deviated in the political arena. Sometimes I do get a little bit wishful that I may have spent some more time here. But it's a great place to be. It's a great institution. And I said, wish you well and commend you for the efforts you're doing now. Thank you.
We want to thank Minister Chang for that very inspiring message to us and his commendations. Now, at this time, I'm going to just give a vote of thanks just to thank the significant persons who have helped us to make this a reality, the functional reality, as well as the well itself. Following the vote of thanks, I'll need to guide you into what will happen outside. Dr. Edwards, just help me here. Will there be a mic outside, or should I give the instructions for inside here? Sophia? So we'll give the instructions from here, and so they have to be good students today. Right, okay. So first of all, let me just thank the minister himself for being here. We knew that his time was extremely tight, and so we had to really juggle to make sure that this happened because we didn't want it to happen without his presence. So thank you, Minister, for being here and for those words that you brought to us. We must, of course, thank North Star, Mr. Mark Tippett, and I've now learned Skip, I think it is. So we want to thank North Star. These are the two persons here, but I'm sure you have a team of persons that we want to thank so much for all the effort that you have made to make this a reality. And we also know about the principal wants to see you. So we know it from our end too, so I know exactly what you went through. PVC Weber, we thank you for being here on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and for bringing his words of commendations to us. The National Water Commission, Mr. Aubin Hill, its chair. Thank you, sir, for being here with another hat. I'm not sure your president is with you today, right, but we thank you for coming, and we know that we'll have a continuing good partnership with the National Water Commission. Jamaica Wells, can we identify you? Are Jamaica Wells persons here? Thank you so much. We have heard of the significant work that your team has done, and we thank you for it. The JMMB team, I know them pointed out Mr. Townsend, so I know that's Mr. Townsend right there. But I know, again, it's the company JMMB that is backing this, and we thank JMMB so much for their part in this that they have played. The principal mentioned a number of our private sector partners. We just want to briefly say the Jamaica Manufacturers Association, the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica. We want to thank all of them for the efforts they have made to partner with us in this effort. And if there's any other persons, and I'm talking particularly now of making this happen. I'm sure Devon had his role. Ronald Robinson, the principal, talks about his team, his PPP team. So we want to thank them for the initial discussions and for carrying this through from his office. But nothing could have happened unless this function, took place today. Nothing could have come to reality in terms of launching it and telling you so much about the project and where it came from, how it came to be. So there are a number of other persons we want to make sure we thank today. The members of the Mona Marketing, Recruitment and Communications team led by Dr. Carl Edwards, we want to thank them. We want to thank the OSSD, the director is here, Jason McKenzie. They provide the shuttle service for those who are afraid to drive in or walk in. We thank you for the shuttle service. The director of security isn't here, but his office certainly was on the ball. They've been outside there along with guardsmen, ensuring the security and parking arrangements. Thanks to them too. D. Burns, he might have left. Are you still here, D. Burns? There you go. Thank you, D. Burns. Thank Mr. Melbourne Douglas for the entertainment. You have not yet felt the caterer, but you will shortly feel the caterer and the tasty food that is prepared. So we thank Mrs. Lorraine Fong, our decorator, Mrs. Malabra, for ensuring the site was appropriately dressed and aesthetically pleasing, despite the rustic nature of the environment. The PR team from the principal's office, Ms. Tessa Maria Leon, and we thank them too. And of course, I think I must mention Ms. Sophia Preston, the key lead in the principal's office. Thank you, Sophia. And I'm not even seeing clearly, but from the principal's office, we have a number. Mrs. Leslie, is that Mrs. Leslie beside you? Can't see properly, you know. Mrs. Jean Leslie from the Estate Management Division and her team too. Thank you so much. There's so many persons that came together. And folks, let me tell you, we had a very short window to get this to happen. We thank you as a team, our Mona team, our deans, Boy Leighton Jackson. I think Dean Jackson has to get a special prize this year. Dean Jackson has been at every function in recent times, and we know what it takes for him to be here. Dean Fletcher, thank you for being here. Our deputy principal, thank you for being here. Members of staff and other supporting persons from the Mona campus, thank you so much. All our invited guests, it was such a pleasure having you, sharing with you at this time. I just think I saw our estate manager, Mrs. Sambo. Thank you to Mrs. Sambo for what you've done. So thank you all for being here. It formally brings the first three-quarter of the program to an end, and I'd like to now guide you through the next event, and I'm sure between Ms. Preston and Dr. Edwards, we'll help you to make it happen outside. So the event of the evening is going to be the turning on of the pipe. And so at this point, we're going to invite the minister, the principal, and our North Star president to the operations house outside for turning on the pipe. Sophia, you have to help me. Can't we witness it at all? Will we be able to? So must the guests go outside? So, okay, so don't move yet. So I'll tell you what's going to happen. So the chair, the minister, the principal, the outside president will turn on the pipe. And then the chair, sorry, not the chair at all. The principal and Minister Chang will be out there as well. And then there are going to be some photo ops. So we're going to have to give a few minutes or PVC for photography over here and his team as well. So we're going to have quite a few photo ops after the turning on of the pipe. And then after that, there's going to be a brief tour. And that tour of the site will be for the minister, the principal, and they will be guided by Winward Lawrence from Jamaica Wells and Peter Ainsworth from the Estate Management Division. And then we will have a tour that the rest of us could join. So just quickly, we're going to have the pipes turned on, minister, president, principal, and then we're going to have some photo ops, and then we're going to have a brief tour first by the minister and the principal, and then the rest of us will join, being led by Winward Lawrence and Peter Ainsworth. Sorry, and importantly, Sophia has reminded me, there is going to be food after that, so we'll feed you, Mr. Chairman. So after that, we're going to have some cocktails. So please join us now outside, and I'll invite Dr. Edwards. Could you just kindly escort the principal and the minister and the president? Thank you so much for coming. Clap yourselves.
Was developed at well site number 1. So it's not on this site. This is site 2, which is close to where we plan to second. Actually, where the well is. Yeah, where the well is. So the water is pumped across from the well to this chlorination tank right here. We have a chlorination station just behind. Chlorinated water goes to a 32,000-gallon storage tank, from which we pump to achieve the sufficient contact time, disinfection. And from that tank, we temporary arrangement, we're going to supply the campus with a rate of 600,000 gallons, 600 gallons per minute, which equates to 860,000 gallons per day. Right? Our demand currently is 550,000 gallons. So we are able to supply more than what we can export. Long term, we will be bringing in 2 storage tanks, which tank will be 750,000 gallons. So this is the base for them. Exactly. So we'll have 3 days supply. 3 days supply. And so the system when built out, we expect this to be completed before summer next year. So we should have a full system built before summer.
And you have the second one as a backup here.
That's in the pipeline. Right here we have our booster pump station. The booster pump station is currently fixed with pumps that can go up to 1,350 gallons per minute. So we are now going to be supplying at 600 gallons per minute. Pump can go up to 1,350. Yeah, exactly. So it's for future. So we have put in place the infrastructure so whenever the demand increases, we will be able to supply more than enough to the entire university community. Right? We have a 10-inch pipeline that has already been installed. All the infrastructure is already in place. So whenever we are ready, we'll just need to turn on and supply the campus with that water.
You're part of the university?
Yes, I am.
That's Jamaica.
No, I'm a part of, my name is Peter Ainsworth with Estate Management AC. Okay, so that is basically our system that we have in place.
Right. So these are vapor frequency drive motors. This is controlled by that what they call an intelligent pump system. And that monitors the running of the motor. So the motors the unit is set up to exercise all the pumps. So all the pumps will be run at the same time. We have like 1 and 2 we run today, 1 and 3, 1 and 4. So you have right.
Less stress and more efficient.
Right, and they have full redundancy. Also, what the pump also does is try to have the units running at best efficiency point. So if, for example, at full duty, each of these pumps can give about 350 to 200 gallons a minute. So in all, 1,600 gallons a day are right, we're not doing that right. So what happens is that what the best efficiency point with about 350 GPM and 50 PSI. So instead of going to 400, then we might have 2 pumps run at the best efficiency point to give you your demand. And as a result of that, you can also achieve some cost savings.
Your new campus is 6 floors. Right. So you're going to put a basement for that?
Well, this is
pressure gauge right now.
Right. Remember that this is what they call a constant pressure. So what you will do is you will monitor bypass it on the campus side. We have a number of pressure gauges to ensure that the right pressure is going inside. And so as the demand increase, it will go up, and as the demand decrease, then it will fall off. Right?
And also for our state management system, we monitor pressures in the pipelines around the campus routinely, so we will be able to monitor what's taking place and react.
Behind you, right there, we have these are monitors for flow meter. Here, right. So you have these are redundant. So this will give you your flow meter. Right now that's 0. No, that's 0. But when you start pumping, you will just your flow rate.
That makes drinking the university was one of the that's
So the flow meters are actually some around the side, and these are what you use. So you can totalize. As we heard Dave mentioning, next year we're going to have a SCADA system that you plug into so you can have and flow the scheme with 5 optics. So you're going to be able to monitor from a cell phone from Sashpot office or Peter's office what is happening in the system. Right, and all the and all of these equipment can type. Right. So you'll be able to monitor.
You can also spot the leaks.
Exactly.
And that's fun. It's a big part. The leaks are up somewhere in the middle of the commons.
Right. Now, these tanks have these pressure transducers here, which also serves as leak detection. So if you find that you have a very rapid fall off or whatever, then you can and set an alert here. Right.
Right, that's what keep amending for us. That's what I sure that you got one totally new factor, so the system go down. When they tell all the earth, when they do the factor system, when sadly, because they do delete, I want to see what here.
What we have
We'll pick up sometimes.
is like, along with this project, we are also improving our infrastructure on campus with pipelines. We're changing our water meters, we're putting in smart meters, so we're able to identify which buildings are actually those with leaks, and we'll be able to
Well, we got to get from Moby to come to this up here, and we're going to pick up the campus. I got to get next one. It worked out. They do it like, they're trying to do this for them, and sleep at the same time. Once they just start it, they go, they can't go mad, they just, they go as far as 24 feet down. And the science pipe, they run it through, steam it, and just attack the old big up anyway. Go through the, try to keep it there. Go through the old.